Sentinel Mindset.
How much does a bodyguard make? What's up, everyone? Hope you're having a fantastic day today. We're going to be diving into the wonderful world of executive protection, also known as close protection. And if you heard me use the word bodyguard, that is more or less what the public generally hears day to day. But today we're going to discuss exactly that. Now, in our line of work, one big part of the work that we do is executive protection, aka close protection, aka bodyguarding. And for us, a lot of people want to get into that world. Now, we put a lot of videos out how you get into that world, but today you're going to find out exactly what they get paid. And you're going to be surprised because it's not a standard thing across the board. Now, recently I was watching this video, which we're going to watch right now. If you guys don't know who Lionel Messi is, he's probably one of the most famous soccer players in the world, or football players in the world. And the person who looks after Messi, his name is Yassine Chueko. And if you've ever had a chance to watch this guy do his thing in protecting Messi, it's actually quite a wonder because nothing gets by him. Let's check out, first of all, one video of Yassine in his element, like right now. As you guys can see, a fan went to run up to Messi, and Yassine came out of nowhere and was able to stabilize the situation. Now, some people say, what do you mean? You have to have a kid escorted off by CP? Well, in the situation here right now, he's a threat because you don't know what his real motive is. And the reality is he's probably not going to do nothing. But that's how he looks at everything because that's what his job is to do, right? Let's show you another one really quick here. He's running from the top of the corner of the field right now. He sees an actual person running towards the player, and he intercepts. Okay? He does this all the time. There's tons of videos of this. And again, it's usually star related. He's trying to get a picture. Okay. Now, that's Yassine in his element. So the next thing that came up was, well, how much does this guy make? And it says that he follows Messi everywhere for $250,000 a year. Now, it could actually be euros. And if it's euros, that would probably bring it up to maybe $350,000. If it was in American dollars, you're probably looking closer to $400,000. But at the end of the day, when I first thought that rate, I'm like, $250,000 for that? I'm like, wow, that's not a lot. And you might be thinking, oh my God, are you crazy? $250,000? That's a lot of money. It is a lot of money. But really, what does the job entail? You see, to be someone's close protection agent, that means you're with them all the time. That means when the guy gets up and he walks into a supermarket, or if he goes into any, you're following him around everywhere you're going. And it's not only about following him, you're creating advances and you're basically putting security details in place to make sure you're route planning, to make sure nothing happens to your VIP. So when you dedicate your life to someone, because that's literally what executive protection is, you're dedicating your life to someone, what is the cost and value of that? Now, in this case here, it's $250,000. However, another thing to note is that in a year, really when it comes to soccer, they're playing usually 2 months out of the year. So one could argue, well, what is he getting outside of that? Well, that could cover 2 months. And then you're thinking now, wow, he's getting paid $125,000 a month, if that is the case. Now, we don't know what Messi's protection is outside of him playing soccer, but I'm sure wherever he goes, he has protection because of who he is as an individual. So let's dive into that. What does a bodyguard make, right? Now, the one thing you got to understand is where you are in the world also will determine how much you make. For example, there's the Canada versus US comparison. Now, in Canada, executive protection or bodyguarding is not common across the board like it is in the US. I mean, look at, for example, in certain parts of the US, you have, for example, California. Let's go right down to Los Angeles, where the majority of the celebrities live. There is a very high demand, which means that there's celebrities that have full-time close protection agents with them all the time. There's a thing called the paparazzi, and there's a big reason why they have these things in place. Now, that's for the celebrity style of things. When you come into Canada right now, there is a very small, minute level of celebrities. So you're not going to really have quite a bit of the same kind of mindset of protection here. In fact, a lot of celebrities, when they come into Canada, they're like, it's Canada. I don't need protection. And by the way, if you ever do get a chance to go to the film festivals, we're probably one of the most well-behaved nation when it comes to dealing around celebrities. And celebrities actually love that because they don't feel they're getting bombarded, right? I mean, you could be Drake walking down the road. You'll just look at him and say, "Yo, there's Drake." But if you're in the US, you'll probably get a paparazzi swarm or people bombarding you, right? So these are the ways that protection is being kind of analyzed, is that where you are in the world determines that the way you are in the US, you may be getting a higher level of dollar. Now, if you're a place like Cincinnati in the US, you may not have a very high demand for executive protection, which means that the rates will be different as well. Another comparable is, if an agent is armed or not. In the US, you have to carry, or you have the ability to carry, which means that sometimes a request from a client will be, "I need an armed agent," right? And then there's a higher price tag for that because they're carrying and the skill set is different. Also in Canada, you don't have the ability to carry as a close protection agent. So I say that to you because it matters on the type of work that you do, and it also matters in the geography. If you're going into the jungles of Brazil on a mission, you may have an extremely high surge in pay because of the danger associated with the work that you're doing. So really, the pay scale varies. Now, I can tell you, for example, like in Canada, as a starting point in the private sector, because I'm going to go into the differences of private and government. In the private sector, you can have a range of anywhere between $40 and $50 an hour. And then there's usually minimums attached. And then there's usually day rates sometimes, meaning as in instead of doing minimum XYZ hours, you basically say we're going to pay you a day rate of $500 or $600 that'll cover XYZ hours, right? That is very common. And sometimes it's a lot easier for the agency and the agent. Where the benefit comes into play is you could be maybe doing 4 hours of work and get paid a full day rate. So there's a lot of things that come into plan. Now, if you're in the in the government sector, let's talk about some government sectors. Look at, for example, the Secret Service, right? They are the protectors of the president. And then you also have in Canada, the O team, and the O team basically is under the RCMP, which is the equivalent of the Secret Service. Well, if you're on the RCMP side of things, it doesn't matter. You're in a specialty division, but your rate of pay might be around $150,000 a year as an agent, where in the US, your pay might be a little bit higher with the government. And the specific thing I'm trying to get at is that it ranges. There's a big, huge range. And some of the things that really govern what an agent gets paid. I have some things written down here. Like, for example, the economy, right? Prior experience, like skills and training. So an agent that has just gotten training and is coming into the game, he's going to start at the lowest level because he's still learning. But a skilled agent, he can demand more money. And then we have, for example, what exactly is the detail, the client profile, celebrity versus dignitary, national versus international. All these things come into play. What is the level of risk or danger? You heard me say about the jungles of Brazil, where you basically have people going down there and, could be literally be involved in certain like escorting gold miners. And then that's a high level of danger. You'd want to really put a high level of pay there because you're putting your true life at risk. Political climate, right? Right now, there's a lot of stuff that happened, as you know, in Israel and other areas of the world. And if agents are going down there, the risk in war is going to be even higher. That has an association of higher pay as well. How much travel is required, right? It's very common for agents to travel. Like in Canada, when we're sending out any of our agents, it could be in the province of Ontario, or it could literally be all across Canada. And usually we'll stay within our geographic location of Canada, because once you start crossing over into the US, there's a lot of other things that come into play, which we won't talk about right now. But the bottom line is, if you are traveling with your VIP and your client, you have to factor that in as well. And the local and circumstances of the detail. Lastly, the range and duties for the position. So all these things factor in. There is no real specific how much hourly amount like across the board. It really varies. It could go as low as, like I said, 40, 50, and it can surge into the hundreds of dollars, because at the end of the day, you have to factor what it is. Is it a lucrative career? Absolutely. When we hear about celebrity bodyguards, some celebrity bodyguards get paid insanely well, right? But the thing is, the reason why this is the reason why. Is it great pay? Great. I want to join and be a bodyguard. It's not that simple. One of the biggest questions that you got to ask yourself is the three words that we're hearing over and over again: work-life balance. Is there work-life balance in this type of work? And the answer here is hell no. Absolutely not. This is the type of work that you're getting phone calls literally sometimes hours before and you're getting deployed. Or you're getting a call the night before and your suitcase is packed along with all your suit, your shoes, and all the tools that you need to win. This is the type of work that you're up on the go. If you're a married man, a family man, you're in a brand new marriage, you have little kids, you got to ask yourself the question, am I going to be able to do this life? Does it pay well? Yes, it does. But is it going to demand from you? Absolutely. I was talking to an agent and he told me he's gone through 3 marriages. And, at the end of the day, it's one of those things that if you're looking at pursuing this career to get those kind of dollars, it's probably, in my humble opinion, more suited for individuals that are single or that are starting off their careers. Because if you are getting into this and you have those things that I told you, a family commitment, children, a wife, the whole 9 yards, you could be traveling extensive periods of times. We had one of our agents here last year, for the last 2 years actually, go on tour with the musical Hamilton. And he went all over Canada. And he would only come back for maybe 5 to 10 days every month or so. And the reality is, that's hard. Think about, I have to go to the dentist. I got to do this. I got to do that. It's a very different life. So the industry does pay well, but it also expects a lot from you. And if that is something that you're looking at pursuing, why not? I mean, definitely go get it. But if you're looking at stabilization, maybe something in the government sector might be something that you might be interested in, because in the government sector, and again, I'm only going to reference the RCMP OS team because that's our country, but they have platoons and they basically have schedule sets. So whenever the prime minister travels, if it's your rotation, you're traveling with him. Okay. So these are things to kind of really keep in mind when you're looking about that. And, at the end of the day, if this is a career that you're doing, the number one thing you have to understand is you need a special skill. You need a very specialized set of training, as Liam Neeson said in Taken. You just can't jump in. And at the end of the day, that's what also translates, and I spoke about this earlier, is what your worth will be. So if you're just coming into the game, you're going to go on the lowest bar of the pay rate scale, and you're going to have to really demonstrate and prove yourself. And as you get that skill set, and as you continue to evolve that training, then at that point, you start becoming more lucrative and agencies will want to hire you and give you top dollar because of what you can do. We have an individual that works with us in the close protection world. I'm just going to reference his name as James. And the one thing I can tell you is wherever James goes, whatever details he does, we always get this incredible feedback. And that is because he's consistent and he takes the job extremely seriously, right? So these are things that, again, make you more lucrative so your earning power goes up. And really at the end of the day, as any business agency, you just want to make sure that your clients are being looked after. And there's nothing better than knowing that you're being looked after by someone that knows what they're doing. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. I know it may not have been exactly what you're looking for, but if you want a range, you got it. Starting 40 to 50, up into the hundreds of thousands. And you could potentially be an individual like Messi's Bodyguard and be that guy that's in a high profile environment. But remember, there's a cost to everything. And that cost is your time. Ladies and gentlemen, hope you enjoyed this episode. Have a fantastic day and stay safe. Thank you for joining me in today's podcast. This podcast was created for protectors in the fields of law enforcement, executive protection, security, and anyone looking to level up their mindset. If you are learning from this podcast and you're enjoying it, please subscribe to our YouTube channel at the Sentinel Mindset. That's a zero-cost way to support us. In addition, please subscribe to the podcast both on Spotify and Apple. And on both Spotify and Apple, you can leave us up to a 5-star review. If you have questions for me or comments about the podcast or guests you would like me to consider on the Sentinel Mindset, please post all comments on YouTube. I do read all the comments. Please also check out our sponsors, thearenatoronto.com. The Arena was created to help all those in the fields of law enforcement, security, and all that achieve their fitness goals. I want to thank our producer, Matthew Doyle, and creative supports, Yassine Singh, who help me with this podcast every week. We value your feedback and are here to support you. Tune into the Sentinel Mindset every week where we look in the mirror to make real changes and explore what it takes to achieve greatness in your craft.
This podcast is brought to you by Executive Protection Lifestyle Canada. Make sure to drop by next week and don't forget to subscribe.